Greetings, it's I, Tantus Naraman Dracovin, your Lord and Emperor here at the Dracovin Empire, and welcome once more, of course, to all of you out there who are with me right now, joining me live. Thank you for being here. And for those of you who are over on YouTube watching this a couple days afterwards, hey YouTube, always great to have you here. I love you guys, you know, you're the big part of this entire endeavor. Today, though, and normal support on those things, you know, subscribing, ringing the bell, liking the video, just giving those shout outs there at the beginning. Have any of you played a Ganzi? Because that's what we're talking about. We're diving back into Golarion, the Pathfinder world, and we are continuing our expedition through the various ancestries that, not only when we're talking about playing them in a way, we're talking about how they fit in Golarion. Because, yeah, maybe I'm not talking about statistics and abilities and all those kind of things. I'm talking about what it means to be a Ganzi, to be any ancestry on Golarion. So where do we start with our discussion? Well, I like to always start with shouting out a few books that, if you want to do further reading from this video, you can too. Hey, I encourage reading. Turns out that's a thing I do. But I would recommend starting out with, from first edition, Distant Shores, and from second edition, the Ancestry Guide. So there isn't a lot on the Ganzi overall. We know some things. We know that they are a Nephilim. They're a Planar Scion. I've talked about Nephilims in previous videos, but if you've missed one of those, haven't gotten to it there, you're connected to the outer planes. And a Planar Scion, of course, is a versatile heritage, and in this case, you're exposed to the Maelstrom, the essence of the universe kind of thing. The Maelstrom is chaos incarnate in a way. It's the area between the planes and the outer spheres. It's like limbo is a term for it too. It's the cerulean void is another term, the borderlands. And exposure to that creates Ganzi. Not so simple as just exposure. It can kind of be random. In a normal, unremarkable bloodline, a Ganzi can just be born. Now, you ask, how does that happen? That's kind of strange. That's not normal kind of thing. Well, the mortal parents of said Ganzi could have been mingling with a being that is from the Maelstrom, and just being near to that. It's like, oh, hey there, nice to meet you. You might not even know they're from the Maelstrom, and then, oh, hey, my kid's something strange and different. Also, if you travel through the cerulean void, to travel between the planes and stuff, you might be exposed there. Or it could just be the fact that wherever you're living, maybe the barrier between the material world and the Maelstrom is just a little too thin. Just a little too thin. And that exposure results in a Ganzi being born. It's hard to say exactly, because it's the raw, primal sea of cremation that is Maelstrom. And the Ganzi are empowered by that in a way. They are prone, more than any other Planar Scion, to appearing in these strange places. Yes, in other bloodlines, things can reawaken, things can be exposed, and kind of things can happen, but this indirect creation of Ganzi is, in fact, quite normal for Ganzi in comparison to any of the others. If you're in a community that's open-minded, that's not bad. But if you're a community that's scandal-driven, well, there might be blame or something else. So, it can cause scandal because it's weird, and, you know, depends on the community you're in. But generally speaking, a Ganzi child will grow up happy and loved as any other child. They exhibit irrepressible energy, good-natured mischief, and even if you grow out of these tendencies eventually. So, Ganzi. Boop, boop, put that there, just as a change of image. If we describe a Ganzi and how they appear, they do resemble their original ancestry in general. It isn't common for the chaos to be subtle, though. It is rare that this chaos won't distribute itself in some way in their physical form. And the thing is, because it is the Maelstrom, it is chaos incarnate in a way, there aren't any two Ganzis that are alike. There's no universal traits. There's no commonality amongst them that you might just expect with your average Planar Scion or versatile heritage in general. There are those that are linked to creatures of chaos. Things like Valkyries, and Hirji, and some other known beatings. There's those that are the Protean kin Ganzis that do exist. Whether they're related to Proteans or not, or they just kind of connect with them. They possess serpentine tails, colorful scales and feathers, as well as patches of scales and feathers in other places. Bilaterally, symmetry features are ubiquitous, too, despite the chaotic origins. So symmetry does exist in strange ways. It's this mixture between chaos and symmetry, also. And because they will often have dramatic features, it means they're used to attention. And there are those that will, of course, live this up, dress to match it, and there's others that will try to hide this heritage. It depends on the individuals in a lot of ways. And it also depends on the social preferences of where they're coming from. If you're from a place where big fashion, artistry, things like that are very common, you're probably going to encounter that a lot more than in a place where it's a lot more laid back. It also depends on the individual. Are you rebelling against your society? Are you accepting your society, too? If you're rebelling against it and you're like a laid-back society, you might go all out. If it's a very open, crazy society and you're rebelling against that, you might be very muted in the way that you approach yourself. Because, again, that natural standing out is, are you accepting that and accentuating that, or are you fighting against that? It's to the individual and how you've come to express yourself as a Ganzi, because you have this bit of chaos in you. So, I'll move on to our final one here. Let's talk about societies, Golarion, all that kind of stuff, because that's where we can kind of finish out today talking about Ganzis. Because of the nature of them. Because there are random, most likely, in existence for Ganzis, there aren't a lot of Ganzi traditions to be said. They're individualistic, they're scattered, they're not building societies normally. Most of them will have some kind of name they've taken for themselves that identifies themselves as Ganassi. So most of them like to choose names for themselves, inverting their true names to something that is their Ganzi names. And so there is some of that stuff there. And it isn't to say that there aren't technical places where you will find them in Golarion. The fact is, there are places where Ganassi show up in amounts. Granted, in Golarion. Granted, again, the majority of Ganassi, unexpected, wander themselves to their own. But if you're looking for Ganassi, until recently, the best-known locus of them was in Analui in southern Garund. That city had a pretty good section of Ganzi. Their creativity had contributed to a great deal of the art of this celestial blessed city. And Sarkonis is the other location, where the world wound was, where the wasteland is now. It was an area known for a thin planar boundary, in general. So it was a place where Ganzi were being born. Now that the world wound is gone, many Ganzis have journeyed there. They were driven from that land as, the world wound, demonic invasion, all that kind of stuff had done a lot of damage. Plenty of the Ganzis that are there actually do have this entire idea of continuing the crusade to finish wiping out the remaining demons and restore the people of Sarkonis, because of that thin planar barrier, because a lot of Ganzi were born there originally, it's the closest thing they have to a homeland. Yes, the Sarkonis people were their own people. plenty of them weren't Ganzi, but it's that connection to something akin to a place they could call home that it draws a lot of them nowadays in Golarion. And there are even some that also do wish to explore this land or resettle a region because it is connected to the Outer Planes, even if they don't want to get rid of the demons and like go for the battle war and restore Sarkonis. So if you're in Avastian, Sarkonis Scar is where you would go to find Ganzis. But yes, that's Ganzis. Pretty simple. There isn't a lot to them, and they are a new versatile heritage for 2nd edition. It doesn't mean we won't get a lot more information, but I feel like this is a group that we know enough about, and we have enough information that this is probably what we're going to get. Granted, if the Sarkonis Scar develops, if some kind of civilization develops there that has a large Ganzi population, that would be something to talk about, but I feel like that's more talking about the history of the Scar and developments there, which may happen in the storyline. As for what we know, they're an interesting group. They are this touched by chaos, by the energies of the universe that have been changed in some kind of way to become something slightly different. And they're not really expected. And again, that's an important part about it, is that this touch of chaos, of the Maelstrom, just so happens kind of randomly. You do not know when it's going to result in a Ganzi's birth. And that's what makes it so interesting. Because where there's a lot of other places where you can see Planar Scion's births because of, mixtures between bloodlines or exposures to natural energies of an area, the only place that we can point that out in Golarion is the Sarkonis Scar. Which, because of the World Wound, a lot of people got slaughtered there. Not everybody, but a lot of people got slaughtered. So it's one of those things, is the closest thing to a natural area where you can expect Ganzi to born didn't exist for so long because of the World Wound. Only now is that becoming a thing again. Up until now, just chaotic. But it could become an interesting change for this Planar Scion. An interesting development, as maybe that idea of a society of traditions that are just Ganzi could develop there. There's so much potential and interest, but it is intrinsically linked to a specific area more than a specific culture, because, yeah, more of them are going to be born there, but it's not guaranteed. And it's chaos. Can't say that you're going to have a Ganzi child, or just you're going to have a child of your ancestry. It's the chaos of chaos. Anyway, I think that's a great place to leave it, with the essence of the Maelstrom in us all a little bit. If you enjoyed this, hey, remember, you can always check me out on the Twitch side live if you haven't joined me live, or the YouTube side if you're joining me live. Either end, I said the support there. I do tabletop stuff most days of the week. The main days are Tuesdays, Thursdays, and currently Saturdays. I might move that around for stuff like this. Thursdays is the Pathfinder day. Early afternoons for Tuesdays, Thursdays, and late mornings for Saturdays. And of course, I have a live play Pathfinder 1st Edition if you want to see that on Wednesdays, 9 p.m. EST. Crimson Queen, check it out. And there's Discussing Tabletop on Saturday at 6. That's all my tabletop stuff. It all goes up on YouTube later on, so if you want to check out that schedule. And I do Twitch streaming too. I also have Discord, Twitter down below. So, hey, social media links. I think that's a good place to leave it completely. I gotta say to all of you out there who've joined me, whether you're just hanging out with me live on Twitch or you're joining me later on YouTube, thank you for enjoying the content and stopping by. And until the next time I talk about an ancestry, some lore from any tabletop game, whatever I go into, and of course, plenty more stuff about Golarion, I bid all of you out there a deep and wonderful farewell.